Hey Adam, you have Michelle from Youthink magazine.
Hey Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Yes, very well. Where am I? Kansas City. I'm in Kansas City. It's very hot, and I'm wearing a turtleneck, but it's very good.
Well, that sounds enjoyable. So I have a few questions for you today. Do you mind if we start now?
Let's do it, yeah.
Okay, so when we spoke to you a year ago, you said that your ultimate goal is to be the first artist to perform on a live TV show broadcasted from the moon. So has this ultimate goal changed?
No, it's still definitely top of the list. It hasn't happened yet, but I'll let you know when it does.
All right, that sounds great. So with the success of your previous album, did you feel any additional pressure when writing and recording All Things Bright and Beautiful?
Yes. I mean, yeah, the short answer is yes. Ultimately, I think it was very good pressure for me. I guess mainly because I sort of do everything except for mastering, and I always forget how much work it takes to make a full record. But I think first and foremost, I wanted to make sure that the new album was very heartfelt before anything else. You know, that I wasn't writing it for Billboard or writing it for iTunes or anything like that. So I guess it was ultimately more of just making sure that I was in the right headspace before I started on it. And so. Yeah, here we are. It's crazy that it's finished already, but it was a big job, but yeah, it was a good time.
That's fantastic. So your music is usually described as being very optimistic, and the title of this album reflects that. So how do songs like Hospital Flowers and Alligator Sky fit in with this theme?
Those songs are sort of kind of rabbit holes, I guess, on the album that that's an overall very optimistic listen from top to bottom. But those I definitely knew I wanted a few places on the album that kind of veered away from the kind of perceived easy to very very kind of accessibly optimistic songs, and yeah, so those kind of added a realism to it, and especially that song Hospital Flowers was kind of written from from a very kind of personal place, which I don't normally really do. I love the idea of writing from the imagination almost more than pulling from my own personal experiences, mainly because I'm a shy kid from nowhere, so I don't really have much to talk about. So, but it was a good challenge there again.
Actually, that leads me to my next question perfectly. So your insomnia has actually played a large role in the creation of some imaginative songs. I actually don't sleep a lot too. So are you still dealing with your insomnia, and has your creative process for writing songs changed at all?
Yeah, still the insomnia. Actually, I was like awake all night last night because I always take melatonin. Like if I don't take it, I don't sleep, and Ambien kind of just makes me insane, and it doesn't really make me tired. But yeah, so I tossed and turned all night last night, so I'm really tired now. So yes, it is still very much an issue, and I still do fight with it. But it's kind of a blessing and a curse, insomnia, for me, because generally, like last night, I couldn't sleep, so I got out my laptop and I started, programming and writing a couple like little catchy synth hooks, and those might turn into, songs on the next album. And it's kind of like a blessing and a curse. So I try to be grateful for it. It definitely could be worse, but yeah, I'm really tired right now. So.
Well, it's actually I actually have a question. You just spoke about your shyness, and you said that you're a pretty shy guy. So how has your success in music impacted that shyness? And what advice do you have for youth who are struggling to break out of their shell?
The shyness thing has always been very inherent. I'm an only child. That probably contributes to a lot of it. So I never had someone to fight with growing up, and so I always had to kind of invent my own, entertainment, more or less. So I was always like off by myself doing my own thing. so the shyness thing, yeah, it's always been just very part of who I am, and I've never really tried to like change that or fight with that or anything. I've just been like a quiet guy, and it always kind of bugs me when people say, how come you're so shy? Like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, I don't know. It's just the way I was kind of wired. And so suddenly when I started touring and this whole crazy music thing happened to me, I was kind of chasing after it, like trying to figure out how to do it, because obviously I don't love large groups of people, but the nature of what I do has me singing songs in front of large groups of people, so it was kind of a big trick to kind of figure out where I fit into that whole thing, but ultimately just doing it, more and more kind of makes me sort of a good actor in a way of like just putting on that an hour, 2 hour kind of actor mode, and just going out there and really enjoying it for what it is, because this whole thing really is a dream come true for me, and I've never been that great with advice, but if I had to give advice to somebody like me, I would say, don't like try to second guess the way you were, made, as far as being more outgoing or introverted or whatever the case may be. Just stay true to who you are, and it's kind of a waste of time to try to act differently than the way you really are. So yeah, that's kind of what I've learned from all this past crazy 2-3 years.
Oh, that's pretty solid advice. So, our next question is, I'm enchanted to meet you. So, sparks have been flying around the alleged chemistry that you and Taylor Swift share. So, how do you feel about being the subject of her song Enchanted, and are you comfortable being in the limelight in that way?
Yeah, that was a really. I was kind of blown away when I first heard the song that she'd written. I stayed up all night and bought her new record and added up all the hidden secret messages in her lyrics, and added up my first name, the 4 letters of my first name, and I remember. It was crazy. I was blown away and very, very honored that she'd write it's a beautiful song. So yeah, it's kind of like everyone in the world has asked me about it, but it's cool. It's like it's just a fun thing to be associated with, and I really admire who she is and how she sort of deals with life by writing music. For me, there's no better way to deal with life than by writing about it. And so yeah, it was a cool thing.
All right. So Ocean Eyes was written from the perspective of being in your bedroom and imagining how you'd feel if you could visit all these places you're writing about. So now that you have visited many of these places, how did your imagination match up to reality? And how have you grown as a person and as an artist over the past couple of years?
9 times out of 10, the places that I'd written about and wound up seeing in person were not the same place. Like they were very different than I imagined, and not necessarily better or worse. They were just different. So it was cool because suddenly I could go back and probably rewrite Ocean Eyes all over again and imagine and kind of conceive visually all these places that I'm singing about in a new way, because I've been there and suddenly they're different than I ever thought, which is kind of the beauty about imagining somewhere, going somewhere or doing something without actually having done it, and then doing it and then kind of weighing out the two and seeing what was accurate and what was totally wrong. But yeah, just having had the opportunity to travel around the globe and see all these places that I never thought I'd have the chance to see,
so
standing on the beach in Hawaii. It could be Sydney, Australia. I really loved it there, and yeah, there again, like never imagined I'd ever see anywhere beyond the borders of Minnesota.
All right, so who would you like to collaborate with on future albums?
Let me think. I have a funny answer, which is which no one really understands, but it's funny. Back in the '90s, Shaquille O'Neal made rap albums, and they were hilarious. So I probably want to collaborate with him. No one really knows about him, or maybe everyone does, but they try to forget about him because they were really funny. But yeah, I'd probably collaborate with Shaq.
All right, that's actually a pretty amusing answer. So you've also been credited for a revival of synth pop, and so what generated your interest in this music scene? And how did you start, and what was it like to collaborate with the Canadian artist Lights?
The synth pop thing kind of, I don't know, it kind of found me versus, I never set out to write synth pop songs per se. It was kind of just limited to the tools I had for one person, one artist in front of a laptop. I feel like electronic music is kind of the first place to turn in a lot of instances, as far as whatever kind of imaginary soundscapes you want to create. So that was my kind of where I landed, and it's been such a cool kind of world to explore for me. I'm still kind of very new to it, but yeah, it's kind of weird being associated with it, being kind of labeled a pioneer of this new kind of generation of it. And yeah, but it's an honor. Working with Lights was really wonderful. I've known her forever. She's a great person to work with. Very, very obliging, and yeah, just kind of sent files back and forth over the internet, and it was easy. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy both your and Lights music. I actually went to Lights concert a few years ago. But so you said that this new album, you wanted it to sound bigger and to be more dynamic, which you did achieve by adding elements like harder vocals and the use of strings. So I'm actually curious, how did this vision for the album come about?
It was kind of a innate kind of next step for me. I think after I made Ocean Eyes, and I listened back to it before making this new album. I feel like every artist does it, and listens to their previous work and kind of shudders and says, "Oh, I wish I could have changed this about change whatever it is about it." I felt like Ocean Eyes was kind of unfinished in terms of its overall kind of cohesive, conclusive listen as one piece. So for the new album, it felt like the right way to go, just like a next step. Just make it older and wiser, make it just kind of the right follow up to the first chapter in the story.
And so the real world is based on what you think life would be like if you were in a different place. So if you could change one thing about the world that we live in, what would that be?
Probably I'd probably banish or ban or pass a law against turtlenecks. Something about turtlenecks I don't love. So yeah.
Maybe it's a heat there right now, but on the album...
It could be.
Hey, Michelle, sorry, I'm just going to jump in here, so I got time about one more question, if that's okay.
Okay. So, on the album, you have a clip of Ronald Reagan addressing the nation after the tragedy of the Space Shuttle Challenger. So, why did you decide to add that to the album? You're probably only a couple of years old when that incident happened.
Yeah. I was actually 6 months before I was born, and my parents always talked about it growing up for whatever reason, and I just remember being very connected to that incident. Just kind of through my parents, and so I feel like it's one of those sort of very tragic. Memories that it's kind of been lost in the time continuum. I feel like it's kind of it's been forgotten a little bit. So I kind of wanted to just pay respects to that on the album, and there's something really powerful about that whole story, and so I kind of let my mind run with the idea of imagining what it would be like if I were on that ship, and it went up in flames, and what I would be thinking and how I would kind of like look back on the rest of my life if I were taken out of this world. So yeah, ultimately I wanted to kind of bring it out into the light, and you know, I feel like a lot of kids my age and younger probably don't know about it, and it was a fun thing to do. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Adam, for your time. I looked up that you have time to come down to Vancouver, or actually down to Maine, because that's where I'm going to college next year, to play some shows.